Look, if you're in your 30s, you've probably realized we got scammed. Houses, unaffordable. Wages, they're stuck in 2010. Meanwhile, billionaires are dodging taxes like it's an Olympic sport. These past couple of years have been interesting to say the least. In today's video, I'm going to be mainly focusing on the economy in North America and the inequality of wealth happening. This next generation, screwed. I'm sure countless of you are in the same anxious as hell state I am, thinking about how we're going to be able to afford a house when we enter that stage of our lives, let alone food, a car, plus loans we might have. You always hear these fancy statistics that go over people's heads easily, so I'm going to keep it really simple for you guys. The main thing that's driving us further and further into despair is inequality in wealth. Nothing more, nothing less. People gotta understand just how wealthy the top percentage are to really get the full picture. And I'm not talking about the 1%. I'm talking about the 0.1% of the world. All these people who were subsequently at the inauguration for Trump. Why were they all there? I'll answer that later in the video. The main players are the first ones you think of when I say ultra rich. The Elon Musks, Bezos, Zucks of the world. These people have more wealth to them beyond comprehension. To put this into perspective, just these three individuals alone have the collective net worth of approximately $890 billion. If the three of them were to form a country, they'd have the 18th largest GDP in the world, which would be equal to Saudi Arabia, but just behind the Dutch. This is a graph to really show you how the 0.1 compared to the 1% in money. This would be your top 1%. These would be your doctors, your lawyers, possibly even some business people. The average net worth of the 1%, $13.7 million. This includes their house, their cars, cash, all that hoopla they own. Now let's take a look at the richest man Forbes has listed, Elon Musk, who has $409 billion in assets. A colossal difference. Now why would one need all this excess capital is a great question. If the three of them want to spend $1 million a day, it would take them around 2,500 years to go broke. So if they all started spending that million when the Roman Empire was founded, they'd still have 400 years to go broke from now. I'm not here to bash these great men for money they didn't ask for, but how the US still hasn't cracked down on their tax code is beyond me. This isn't some socialism video, it's a video to show you how unfair the tax code is for the average American. In 2007, do you know how much Jeff Bezos paid in income tax? $0. He did the same thing in 2011. The average household got taxed 17 grand in 2011. The reason for Bezos not paying any income tax in 2007 and 2011 was because he had most of his wealth tied up in Amazon stock, and the US doesn't count this as taxable income. Now, why would one need all this excess capital is a great question. I also do understand that a large majority of it's tied up in stock, but the fact he could take out loans against it. The banks know he's good for it. They could simply search up the stock ticker and see he's not broke and that he could pay it back. There's a difference between income inequality and wealth inequality. It's a common misconception that income is equal to wealth. It's not. Income is money you receive, such as salary or investment income. Wealth is basically the total value of everything a person owns, also known as assets, which is subtracted by everything they owe, which is called liabilities. A simple example of this would be a car. A car would be considered an asset. By your car payments, they'll be considered a liability. Why is this important, you might ask? Because it's what's driving our economy into such inequality. The very rich are increasing their wealth by inheriting assets from their parents, and since all these assets have been increasing like crazy the past few years, take for example the housing and stock market. So the people whose parents pass down stocks and housing become more richer and keep growing their wealth, while the people who have never had anything to inherit can't even enter the market since it's so overvalued. And this is a situation going on with housing with millennials right now. According to CBC, the home ownership here in Ontario, Canada, for people between 25 and 29 was 36.5% in 2021. Since then, in 2024, it was reported to fell to 26%, a 10% decrease. It's no surprise since a large number of homes and buildings have been bought up by institutional companies. There are several very rich companies who have been buying up the real estate market in recent years due to huge amounts of capital at their disposal. The formula is quite simple. These companies buy large blocks of houses or buildings, and instead of competing against one another for lower prices, They work together to raise prices whenever they see increase in population or salary in the area. There's a current lawsuit going on against a real estate software company called RealPage in America, which helps landlords set rent prices higher than market rate, putting more money in their pockets and taking money out of everybody else's. It's no surprise that rent and housing prices have been going up non-stop. In America, the average needed to earn, in order to afford a median-priced home with a 20% down payment, $111,000. 4 years ago, this number was at $59,000. This obviously ties into inflation factors and all, but for the most part, its salary is not keeping up with the prices of homes and house pricing going up nonstop. Speaking of statistics, let me throw some more at you. Education. Let's take UCLA for an example. The tuition rate for an undergrad in 1990-1991 semester for a non-resident of California was $13,872. For a resident of California, around $4,000. The annual fee 25 years later, $42,000 for non-residential students and $16,000 for residential. A 205% increase and a 320% increase. Let's look at jobs. Let's take, for example, an engineering career. In the 90s, the average salary for an entry-level engineer, $41,790. Today, same job, same level, $69,362. An increase of only 66%. Obviously, inflation plays a larger role in job salary compared to schooling, but come on. How are we supposed to keep up at this point? It's not a question of be smarter or work harder. It's a question of how much further until people start giving up. So, what does the future hold then? Honestly, who knows at this point? Things are definitely going to end up getting more difficult in the coming years if you're already not part of the wealthy group of people. There's multiple reasons why it might get worse. Part of it has to do with people in control. We saw this with Trump's recent presidency, how all the top 1% of people with wealth all wanted to be his friend. We saw this with Musk becoming his right-hand man, Zuckerberg unbanning him from Instagram and Facebook, and Bezos paying $40 million for a documentary about Melania. It really is a competition between all of them to see who could suck it the best. If you're going to take anything from this video, it should be this. The rich are simply going to keep getting richer until something changes. The billions these three are going to make just because they're friends with Trump is unimaginable. We're talking billions. This includes the tax breaks. How do we fix this? We got to start holding people accountable and forcing stricter tax laws. We have to start putting the right people in office. It would make sense to have people elected into positions for which they have experience in, and they have a wide range of knowledge on the industry. Why would you want a journalist as your minister for international trade instead of someone who's been in the industry? All these politicians get their degrees in political science where they learn how to talk the talk in order to address the public when something's going wrong. But the reason it's going wrong is because they don't have a fucking clue about the things that are going on in the industry. We gotta do something. If you're a young person and your dream is one day becoming a politician or someone important, I pray that you have some common sense and strive for something that isn't greed. The only people that could really make a change are the people that are learning from the mistakes that current people are making. If you become the president of Harvard or some other important school, it doesn't even need to be important, make it so the smartest minds could attend your school for an affordable price, not some nepo baby whose great-grandfather went there who donated millions to it. If you become a politician and fight for the right movements, don't get bribed into situations where they're wrong on a moral level. Humanity's got to do better at taking care of one another instead of dividing each other and creating chaos. Alright, I'm done.